go over the untimely and unfortunate death of former All-Pro Vincent Jackson. He was found dead in a hotel room at a Homewood Suites in Brandon, Florida. And this hotel I drive past every single day when I go to and from work. And it's right off the highway. There's an exit that goes to Brandon, and if you make a right off the exit, the hotel is right to your left, and it's right next to a Bass Pro and a Dave and Buster. So I know exactly where this hotel room is, or this hotel is, and I didn't notice anything odd or peculiar when I was driving past it yesterday. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention to it, but yeah, police found him dead in his hotel room there, and I'm not going to go too much into his death because details are still coming out. Obviously, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, they're doing their investigation. They'll probably wrap that up in a couple of days from now. But the only thing that I really took away from the small report that they were able to come together with was that apparently he did not die of any trauma. So obviously we'll probably find out more later in the week, but it's really unfortunate. It's just really sad to hear of his passing. He was only 38 years old. He had just retired from football just a few years ago, and it didn't seem like to me that he was dealing with any sort of health issues or any mental issues at the time, but it's just really shocking to hear that he has passed away at such a young age. But I want to go over some of the highlights of his career. He had a fantastic career in the NFL, played in the league for over a decade, played most of his time with the Chargers, and then finished his career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But he really burst onto the scene in 2008 with the Chargers. I mean, in that season alone, he had about 60 catches, but the impressive part that went along with it was the fact that he had 1,100 receiving yards, which means he was averaging somewhere in between 18 to 20 yards per reception, which is just absolutely nuts. And then he added 7 touchdowns to go along with it. And then he continued to play with the Chargers for a few years after, was extremely productive for them, ends up going to Tampa, I believe, in 2012, and has an impressive start to his time in Tampa. I believe he was very useful for them in the first 2 to 3 years of his career with Tampa. Still was producing at a high level, getting 1,000-yard receiving marks, I believe, in the first 2 years he was there, and then he ended up finishing his career, retiring, I believe, in like 2015, 2016 season. So, I mean, all in all, an impressive career. Had over 500 career receiving, had 500 career catches, finished with just over 9,000 receiving yards. A solid receiver from the mid 2000s up until I want to say the early 2010s, the mid 2010s. And not only that, when he was playing with the Buccaneers, I remember there was one game in particular where he had a monster of a game, ended up setting the Buccaneers single game receiving record, had 216 yards against the Saints. And if I remember right, that was the game where he ended up getting a 95-yard reception and ended up getting tackled around the 1-yard line by Malcolm Jenkins. It would have been really cool to see him score that touchdown, but Malcolm Jenkins ended up chasing him down and tackling him around the 1-yard line. And there's one thing that I want to focus on with Vincent Jackson and how it relates to when he was possibly going to go to the Patriots. So around 2010, there was a time where Vincent Jackson may have gone to the Patriots to fill the void of Randy Moss being traded from New England. Randy Moss was traded to the Minnesota Vikings in like week 3 or week 4 of the 2010 season. And there were legitimate rumors that Vincent Jackson may have been going to New England to bolster New England's offense. And I remember I would either look on my phone or I would look on my laptop. I would just search Vincent Jackson rumors or Vincent Jackson Patriots in Google search bar, and then just look up all of the news pertaining to Vincent Jackson possibly going to the Patriots. I didn't have Twitter at the time yet, and I think back then Twitter was just in its infancy, so I don't think a lot of people knew about it yet. But if I had Twitter, I would have been just constantly on that looking for possible trade scenarios of him going to New England. Obviously, it didn't pan out that way. He ended up staying with San Diego for, I believe, 2 to 3 more seasons and then went to Tampa after that. But look, just to kind of wrap up Vincent Jackson and his impact. Look, I know he spent a lot of time in the community helping out military veterans, and not only that, military families as well through his foundation, not just in the Tampa area, but around the country as well. So I know that the NFL community will definitely miss him and his presence. He's been a solid role model for the NFL, and it's just really sad and unfortunate to hear about his passing. And it's crazy. He was only 38 years old, and just didn't seem like he was really dealing with anything significant, either physically or psychologically. It's just really unfortunate. And I know Kevin, if he were here, he would say similar things about Vincent Jackson. So just rest in peace to Vincent Jackson, and I just hope that his family can find some sort of comfort in these next couple days, because they're going to need all the support that they're going to need over these next few weeks, because it is going to be a tough thing to deal with his absence moving forward.